If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today because we bring the discussion with the sources.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome to another Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much for joining us after this Christmas holiday. Am I allowed to say Christmas? Did the war on Christmas end already? Are we finally through this holiday nightmare that generates? And it's kind of weird because I've had some time off. I know Hanna has not had as much time off as I have. I took the Friday before off to go on a field trip with my daughter, which was pretty fun. That was actually pretty fun. They went to a movie theater and they said like they're going to take you behind the scenes so you could see how it's projected and stuff. And literally it was us going upstairs in the movie theater and just walking through the area. Nobody explained anything. So here I am. I turned the flash off on my phone. I got my phone out. I'm taking pictures of the cameras. I'm like, holy crap, that's a huge projector. That's amazing. I love that thing. Oh, here's the servers. Let me take pictures of these. I have no idea if I was supposed to do that or not, but I did do that. Maybe I'll post a few of them.
You go through and you're just stealing things out of the machine. So I'm going to take this with me and this knob and this controller, and they go to plug it in. And you start throwing some, you should do something with like the Fight Club stuff where you can get like a bunch of random porn shoot lines and stuff. And I don't know. I think a lot of that's digital now, but
it's all digital, dude. This whole thing is digital. And it was really cool just to see. But, I would have been nicer. And I guess it's hard with 70 kids, but I would have liked them to explain it or go through the history of how it changed. That's me. But I think they just did this for a holiday party because they must have had either extra money in the budget. Well, we had to pay for it. So, I don't know. I had to pay for my bloody movie ticket. But, they gave everybody like a small popcorn and a small pop and a movie ticket for like $6. And, you can't really pass that up, And so we got to see Wreck-It Ralph #2, whatever it's called. Which is a pretty good movie. He wrecks the internet.
Yeah, Ralph wrecks the internet or something like that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it, but I didn't even see the first one, really.
Oh, the first one's really good. Yeah, your kids are a little younger, so that's
why
I
haven't seen some of those.
It's like, if you have free time, do you watch kids' movies? Probably not.
Not intentionally, no. The only one I do watch is I watched Nightmare Before Christmas in my own free time sometimes, just because I like that movie. Bring the nostalgia of your childhood type thing.
Oh yeah,
that's probably the only one. That, and I think that Danny Elfman's voice is just cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just a cool sound. Like, I don't run into musicals and stuff that I like much. In fact, I actually asked Reddit the other day what I should do to like Disney movies more, because my wife and daughter love Disney movies. And they were like, well, you could check this out. And someone sent me a link to the Mary Poppins Supercalifragilistic song that had been dubbed over by black scream metal. And I actually enjoyed that. That was pretty cool, and that took me down a rabbit hole where I could see Shirley Temple singing heavy metal and some other stuff. So there's hope out there that I might actually enjoy some of these songs.
Well, that was kind of funny in the Wreck-It Ralph 2 movie. They get into the internet, right, and they run into this Disney area, right, and they got all these Disney princesses in there, And
yeah, I heard that part was supposed to be amazing. I listened to a review of it, and they said it was really cool.
It was hilarious because Glitch was like, she basically was like, yeah, wear comfy clothes. They all wear these comfy clothes. And then, they kind of bitch about the patriarchy. It's kind of funny because I'm just sitting here, I'm like looking around to wait to see any other parents are going to like, either say something negative or like, applaud it. And then at the very end, the princesses come in and rescue, and it's like, oh, it looks like somebody needs to be rescued, and it's not us this time because we don't need rescuing. And I was like, yeah, there we go. Look at that feminist tint coming in there, And so I clap really silently, just because I didn't want to make a big scene and be like, yeah, I'm the big, I'm the far left guy, is sitting in this super conservative
you stand up
town. But yeah, it was like, yeah, and my daughter is like, yeah, see, Dad, princesses are awesome. And I was like, all right, fine, if they were all like this, I'll grant you that. But so that was fun, and I've had some time. I have the rest of the week off as well, though it's very busy. My wife has picked up some hours at work, and she's volunteering more, so she's pretty much gone all week working while I get to stay home.
I have 4 Christmas parties the next 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
So, 3 different ones in Sarah's family because I married into a farming family, which is like they needed 30 kids to work the fields, and there are children, aunts, uncles, nephews. It's insane. I mean, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun. Everybody gets along relatively well, which is surprising because my family's like 8-9 people, and we have our tiffs here and there, but like I can't imagine 60 people at a Christmas party. And the first time I ever went to one of these things, it was a whole new world, man. To bring back some more Aladdin stuff there.
maybe we'll make the whole episode full of Disney
song quotes.
Yeah,
why not? Let's see how long we can keep it going.
Yeah. Tonight I wanted to start the show off though talking a little bit about the bankruptcies, right? So obviously another billion-dollar organization is going out of business. And I think we covered this back in March. It was either March or it was even a year ago with Toys R Us. And we had a conversation about, executives inside of any large company getting high dollar payout bonuses while they're closing down stores left and right. Well, Sears is going through this, and I'll be honest, it's not surprising Sears is going bankrupt, in fairness. I haven't ever seen very many people in Sears. They're not competitive. They don't have the talent to explain some of the stuff that they're selling there, and I think our market is very oversaturated for buying home objects now. It's just there's too many of them. And it's like that bubble. The bubble's burst now. But Sears is going bankrupt, and they're paying $25 million out in bonuses. Now, if they were paying that to those leaving the company, that would be a little different, right? They're not, though. They're paying it to their top executives. So we have almost the exact same situation we had with Toys R Us, except for now we were watching courts make these decisions for another organization. And again, I don't know if the top execs are the 1%, but I'm going to lump them in at least the top 10%,
Yeah, they're definitely higher up there. But what they're talking about, what brought this to my attention during the week this week was I was listening to some economists talk about this because I saw the link and it frustrated me. It just made me angry that this always happens, that the people at the top of these failing companies, when they go up into bankruptcy court, when they go into bankruptcy proceedings, that the courts a huge, massive payoff. And I was trying to find someone who would explain that, and I finally found somebody on the I think it was the Indicator on NPR's. It's a offshoot for Planet Money, a little short 10-minute show they do every single day on some kind of indicator and value. I think that was the show. Anyways, what they basically said in the bankruptcy proceedings and the argument that the Sears Corporation put forth to the banking people to try to get this bonus okayed was that in order for bankruptcy to succeed, so the restructuring of the company to keep the high quality employees that would be necessary to keep the company running in an elite form, they need to pay the people that are there good money. So their argument is that if they don't have bonuses and they don't show these people there's an incentive for them to stay, they're all going to jump ship, and then the only people who will be there to try to steer this company in a good direction again will be industry averages. They won't be leaders in the company in fields of their expertise. And that's what their argument is, that in order to have good quality employees and leaders, we need to pay good to bring those people into the company or keep the ones we have, which is I get the argument there, but it's one of those things that, I really think that the bankruptcy law in this case has a kind of an ability to change the way these corporate structure resettlements can happen, in so far that they would be able to say, we understand that economic model, but the people that are driving this thing that have already been here have driven it into the ground. So they can maybe set something up so that the larger white collar workforce would get the majority of these bonus payoffs, kind of the workhorses of the company, and that the top executives, the ones who make all the decisions, who may have made bad decisions, those people would be restricted. And the only way that they would be able to get bonuses is future performance or something along those lines. You know what I mean? Like, it would have to be tied in so that they just, like, you're an executive who used to getting paid $10 million a year. And the only way we can keep you here is to give you $10 million and a bonus of another $500,000. Like, why? You know what I mean?
Well, to me, I think there's larger failures. If they're making $10 million a year, they should be taxed at like a 60% rate, flat out. Like, that's just my opinion. But the other side of it is instead of paying them outright that large bonus payout, why not create? If you leave this company after you've driven it into the ground and you make over this amount of money, right, with more responsibility more, damn it, I can't remember the quote now.
Yeah, with more power comes more responsibility.
So they're in this with the more responsibility thing, right? So here's the deal. Instead of creating it and allowing for them to be able to make all this extra money to keep them around, why not put large punishments in? Oh, by the way, not only are we going to sue you, you're going to be eligibly sued in court by employees. And oh, by the way, guess what? Here we're gonna turn around and say your tax rate goes up by this amount or something. But it creates some sort of a negative penalty for this, and you would find, instead of handing them money for keeping the failing business from being any worse, you would find that they're going to keep the business from being worse so they don't lose their personal investments. And that's my opinion,
you want to add
where they should go with
accountability.
Yeah.
You want to add accountability to the people at the top. Yeah, because it seems like you hear about people who are like, I was the CEO of this company, and let's say it failed or whatever, and they made millions of dollars. And you hear like 2 years later after bankruptcy, they just get another job on like the board of another $50 million company. And you're like, who is hiring you? And there's a club, there's an elite club of people who kind of bounce around and do stuff like that. And I do like the idea of that, but that's one of the things about, you have to be okay with regulatory markets. The whole idea of the democratic socialist model is that the government is very in tune. Like when we used to talk about the number of times the base worker salary that a CEO can make, like setting limits on that. Like you can't make more than 100 times the lowest paid worker in your company or whatever. And so if you want to make $10 million a year, you have to increase all of the minimum wage jobs or whatever. Like those kinds of things there, what they do is they distribute that money around a little bit more evenly, but also, that could potentially bring some changes into the way corporations are structured so that the people at the top aren't so far removed that they don't understand when they're making really bad decisions and can possibly driving a company like Sears into the ground. Because Sears itself, the only way a company this big and powerful fails is that it fails to keep up with the times. Like if you think about Sears Roebuck used to be the biggest, I believe it was the biggest company in the entire country. They used to sell entire houses by mail order. You could buy the whole house. All you have to do is put it together. Like it was insane. This company was so big, and it's on penny shares now, less than $1. Or I think it's either less than $1 or it's at penny shares, one of the two. And this is a huge, huge change. And so they're basically saying that, if a company just disintegrates and falls apart like this, the idea that the Republicans have and conservatives have is that there should be no bailouts. There should be no saving. The market has said that this company fails. They should be allowed and totally given, the right to collapse and fail. And then in bankruptcy law, we have created these things that can help or whatever. But like the bankruptcy shouldn't itself be a shelter or a haven for people who make tons and tons of money. Like the executives seem to be like, okay, well, this company is just doing really bad, like Toys R Us. But here, we can do this bankruptcy. It'll benefit us at the top really well. We'll make a whole bunch of money. And then we can decide if we're going to keep the company going or we'll just lay off everyone and just, we won't even mention their severance packages or we won't even give them that. Like that whole ability to do that is something of a failure for bankruptcy, as essentially not having any accountability for the people at the top to provide for the people who are their employees, who are the lifeblood of those companies.
Yeah, because otherwise, if we're not going to hold these people responsible at some point, right? Don't we just government institute everything? I mean, is that just where we need to go with this? To me, what this says is, hey, you guys don't want you don't want to be held responsible for your capitalistic, belief set, but yet you're not going to hold others responsible. And that's the largest issue I've always had with not even just a conservative model, but like a libertarian model. And
yeah.
The libertarians may not believe in a cash payout, right? But they are going to they are going to say, hey, if that's what's decided, that they get this extra money. And I'm saying, heck no, we need to go after them, and we need to make sure that these people don't. This is a Trump model, man, and it's kind of funny. This is not like because he's president, right? Just I want to make that very clear. This is not.
No, this is
Trump's
a model
president,
that
and I hate him because of he's president and he's a horrible president. I want to make sure this is the model that this dude used. He had 4 bankruptcies, or is it 7? I don't know. It's 4 to 7, whatever it is, and he's still a millionaire, if not billionaire, right? And that's the idea behind it is he can still profit and live and be successful after his companies have died, and I'm okay with that. But he shouldn't be successful. He should be a pauper again. It's like, yep, you screwed all these people over. You
gotta start over.
The banking industry over. You're creating higher interest rates. You're creating all these other things by your crappy business models. We all have to deal with that. Therefore, you should too. So your company goes bankrupt. If you live in a house, right? Think about it this way, Hannah. If you and I bought a $400,000 house on our salary because the market was really good, and then all of a sudden, we lost our job, we're going to lose that house. Who's going to come in and say, yep, you're a really good worker. We think we understand you work for a company that's like really crappy, but, and you're losing your job, but hey, we're going to make sure you keep your house. Nobody does that. Nobody.
Yeah,
You'll lose your bloody house.
Yeah, there's not as much of an umbrella of protection that the little guy gets. And so this is what I would think. And this is what I would like to see happen. And so imagine a giant company like Sears Roebuck goes out of business or it goes into bankruptcy and they have a $25,000 surplus or $25,000 worth of bonuses that they need to use as effectively as possible to make the bankruptcy productive and bring the company out of all of its debts. To me, the best way to do that is to distribute that money down to its workers, down to the people who are working for the company, to incentivize and grow them. And let's say you cut off a couple of those really expensive people at the top to save money. I would bet you that if you put the money to the lower and middle portions of the corporation and invested in growing those people, adding education to those people, adding salaries to those people, that company would be healthier in the long term, and even probably in the short term, than it would if we just kept with the same model, using the same leaders and same structure that you had before that went into bankruptcy. You need innovation. You need the little guy who's been down there on the floor, who knows what it's like to try to get this box to this place and get it on this shelf. That's who you need. You don't need a guy who spent his entire life in an office or at a prep school or an Ivy League school. He's not going to be the ground up innovator. And so I always like the idea, and this is obviously the socialist in me, is that money needs to be distributed to the bottom to work its way up. And we saw this happen in Irish banks and in the economic downturns, that they didn't bail out the banks. They bailed out the people who were losing and defaulting on their mortgages. And what they saw was they had better economic response quicker and faster because they helped out the guys at the bottom, not the guys at the top who were easily going to survive the downturns. Like, I really think that kind of model works good for businesses. I would love to see a company that does it. If anybody knows of an example where that happened, please let us know, because I suspect that would be a good way to do it.
How about, I don't know a model of a failing company that paid the people at the bottom, but I know of a company, actually, they just did this segment yesterday.
We talked about it, didn't we?
No.
Costco?
No.
Oh, this isn't Costco?
This is not Costco. This is a local Michigan company called FloraCraft in Ludington. For a Christmas surprise last week, and I'm talking literally when I read this article versus when we're recording this, literally they handed out $4 million in cash bonuses and 401k contributions to their full-time employees.
And that was because of tax savings?
So probably they don't say. They don't say it is a profitability thing, right? That's what they claim. Yeah, now, I'm sure it's also the tax side of it. I don't disagree with you, but instead of paying it out to the stockholders, instead of paying it out, to all their CEOs, and maybe their CEOs got something, but they took $4 million in bonuses and handed it to the workers. The lowest, the average amount that the worker in the facility got was $20,000.
That's
the
so
person
cool.
that had worked there their whole life almost averaged $60,000. Now, in your mind's life,
that's a whole year, man.
We're not multimillionaires, obviously. So for us, it's a little different. If I receive $20,000, that's a life changer for me. That's,
hell yeah.
That's a year of paying my mortgage to some extent, right? Or more. That's almost more than a year's worth. That's almost more than a year's worth that I pay on my mortgage.
I could pay off almost all of my wife's student loans instantly.
Yeah,
and I can get away from this adjustable rate mortgage that I'm stuck at. That's 7%, 8%, 9% because of all these Fed chair hikes, man. Whew.
Yeah. See, I don't have
that would be so cool.
that problem. Yeah, but I do have my student loans too. And, I owed like $13,000 still. So there you go. So we, as much as, screw Sears, screw them and screw the government that allows it, there is companies that do this. So in my opinion, what should happen is we should start creating laws. So instead of going full socialist, even though that's where I would rather go with this, we could go back. That company, FloraCraft, should be rewarded for their contributions to their employees. I'm sorry. If we're going to reward somebody, that's the company to reward.
If you're going to give tax incentives, like the tax breaks that we're given for something, I would rather give it for, if you're paying your employees really high wages and driving up quality of life in this country, that's how you get a tax break.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's cool as hell.
So for the charity of the week, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about another positive thing, right? So I'm on a positive roll tonight, trying to be positive, So we're on a positive roll, and we're going to talk about a organization out of Detroit, Michigan called Access. Have you heard of this at all, Hanna? Or is this something
this is new to me.
All right. So this is an organization that I found through a mutual friend of ours on Facebook. And then when I researched it, it showed up on a bunch of different holiday giving sites. I understand it's after the holiday, but it is before the end of the year. So if you do want to make a contribution that is tax deductible, this is another good organization you can do it for. Access is an Arab community center for economic and social services. and they've been serving the community for over 47 years. They were founded by a group of dedicated volunteers in 1971 out of a storefront in Dearborn's impoverished South End. Access was created to assist Arab immigrant population to help adapt to life in the United States. That's pretty cool. They have so many different services too, right? They do.
Yeah.
In fairness,
this is a big group of people.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
This is huge. This organization
I was just gonna say, it doesn't surprise me that it's got as much versatility as it does, because the Dearborn population and the Arab immigrant population is one of the most dense, or is the most dense, I guess, Arab or Arab immigrant communities in the country. It's in the top 2 or 3. I know that for certain.
Yeah, and they are, again. I was very shocked to learn that this organization had been around for as long as it had, and it's never once come up, until somebody had posted about it. And I think that's a crime, because in reality, this organization is huge. They do a lot, and they don't just focus on like one thing. They do education, right? They focus on different programs for young adults, for adults, to help people to get ready for schools, to help them apply for federal funding, to teach English literacy classes. And again, I'm not going to say that we should assimilate, but if we are going to live here, at some point we have to either work within the confines that we have, or change them. So right now they're working within the confines. Should we all learn Arabic because there's a larger population growing? Yes. Should we all definitely know Spanish? Yes. But
I wish I knew Spanish. Oh my God! One of the things I'm super excited about when my daughter goes to school, maybe she'll have Spanish class, and I'll get to learn it. Maybe we're gonna learn together. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and that would be awesome. And that's the thing is, they teach those different type of classes. They also offer caregiver training, citizenship classes, cooking classes if you need it, and they help with domestic violence. Now, that's just the programming side. On top of that, they also offer medical, behavioral health, mental health services for the local community, and it's all based on like a sliding scale. So you don't walk in and you just automatically, they're like, oh, yep, it's all free. They do things based on a sliding scale to help people out. But what's amazing about this is it helps those. So if you're an immigrant and you're not, as an immigrant, chances are you're not going to walk into America and be like, yep, I'm going to make $100,000 or more a year. That just doesn't happen very often.
No.
This allows to help for medical services, which I think you and I can both agree are part of the baseline for human health and human sanity that we don't have, because we don't have socialized medicine here.
We don't even have that for, I don't know, what would you call like the white Americans? Like they're not indigenous, but just the people that we assume are full-blooded, without question, Americans. We don't even have, healthcare is a basic human right for them. What makes you think that we would have? They would need this kind of service and help from a community like this? Like, of course they do, and it's awesome that they're providing this.
Yeah, they they offer internships. If you live in the Detroit area and you're going to school for nursing or for your to be a doctor, you can actually intern here, right?
I'm sure a lot of people
have
do.
interns. They also have research priorities where they talk about different areas that they want to help do research in, which is crazy because you got to think this organization is doing all those other things. The last thing you would think they would be involved with is, research, but they are. They're heavily involved in researching and helping, reassess different needs within their community.
Well, my first thought is that this company or this group is big enough. Like they have CAAP, is a Center for Arab American Philanthropy. So like obviously these people are probably doing something along the lines of political science research, or even anthropological research or whatever it is that you'd be looking at to strengthen the even the psychological research and something along those lines to prove that assimilation and cultures and all of the things that just a random thought. One of the things you mentioned that you didn't really know of this group, and I didn't know of this group. And my guess is they probably take a pretty low profile because the last 20 years of Arabs in the United States has been kind of a tough thing to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if this community has probably been a source of, I guess, directed attention for people who would be in the white nationalist fringe. And so my guess is they probably don't want to output their position and strength and numbers and the services they offer too broad or wide, just because of the negative connotations that could bring. Just having a large Arab community scares uneducated and unworldly Middle Easterners. But it wouldn't surprise me that these people are looking at ways to influence the intellectual community as to the good things and maybe even quality rates of employment and social change and immersion in the community, but also keeping their cultures and how these things can blend and benefit the society, as opposed to having to fully assimilate and become just an Arab white American, which is what a lot of people expect of incoming cultures from around the world, is that they just assimilate into KFC and Burger King. Like, it's just not, that's not what people who want. We don't want to annihilate cultures, and these people are probably trying to strengthen the arguments that everything can be together in peace. And we just need to give people a chance to live the life that they want without taking away from other people. The whole idea of pursuit of happiness. So I really think these people are doing a lot of good things in there. I mean, I'm sure that they have things where some people might be a little bit stronger in their beliefs in certain ways and directions, and you and I probably would have some issues with some of probably the religious minded sections of some of this community. But overall, it sounds like what they're doing here is kind of a humanistic thing, and I don't see anything really that's particularly covering religious perspectives, and so it's kind of trying to stay secular and just help the community, which is definitely the way to go in my eyes for this. So I haven't seen anything that I could critique on here without being able to, I guess, interact directly with them.
Exactly, and that's why I like these little segments we're doing, because it's helping me learn about different, just different things that I've never, had to really be involved with, before. I had my charities that I was involved with, and, it was one of those things that, now I get to learn about, I don't know, other organizations. I don't know, helps me grow a little bit,
Yeah, definitely. It just adds to more that we can possibly do, or maybe a couple of these segments will show a couple people throughout the community and throughout Michigan a place that they can go because they've wanted to become part of that community or donate. If we help just a few people, our job is done in my eyes. So just spreading the word and helping people learn about this is just an awesome feeling.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about pay transparency. We'll be right back with more Cellar Door Skeptics.
Access means a lot to me because without access, I wouldn't be here today.
Access is my home, where I come to learn.
Access means it's like a big helper.
Access isn't just a nonprofit organization, it's a family.
Access serves as a home away from home for the health and well-being of all adolescents in our community.
Because of Access, there's such a sense of community in my life now that wasn't there before, and I'm very happy.
Because of Access, I learned to speak English.
Access means to me support.
Whenever I'm at Access, I'm surrounded by warm and loving people who just radiate with kindness and undeniably show a deep affection for each other and deep endearment for each other.
Access give the people and the refugee opportunity.
It means growth, it means community, it means help.
Access means striving to help people reach their full potential and eventually reach their American dream. Access to me is the premier Arab American organization. It serves so many people in so many different ways. I am a true believer in Access.
Access offered me my first paying job here in the U.S., and now I'm working as a caseworker where I provide employment services to the people who have mental illness.
Because of Access, over 500 children and adolescents have the ability to seek out a safe haven for their health needs.
Access is a place that I made a lot of friends.
Because of Access, I've been able to help people who came in a similar situation like me as refugees get started in the United States.
Because of Access, I'm seeing the people that I serve moving from the dependent stage to the independent stage, and they are living a happy life now.
Because of Access, I start a new business and I became a homeowner.
When someone came to Access without any education, they help him, despite his color, his race, his origin.
Access through the Center for Arab American Philanthropy means giving back. It teaches about community engagement and involvement, and certainly generates a passion for giving back.
What Access means to me is no matter how young you are, no matter what your background is, anybody can give back to their community.
Access gave our community one of the best gifts, a gift that they will always look backward to with pride and always look forward to with hope, and that is the Arab American National Museum.
The museum started shortly after the 9/11 situation. Rather than cower in our culture, I tried to stand up and be tall and avoid the stereotypes that went with the times.
Because of Access, the museum has become into existence, telling our story to the world and incorporating the richness of our diversity and our history and our existence in the United States.
I am a philanthropist.
I am a leader.
I am a filmmaker.
I am strong. I am a youth tutor.
I am an American.
I am a mother and a grandmother.
I'm someone who wants to make my dreams come true.
I am loyal and dedicated to my friends and my family.
I am a doctor.
I am doing what I love.
I am 7 years old.
I am someone who believes in a better future.
I am Access.
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 I am Access. I am Access.
I am Access.
I am Access.
Considering how you want to help Cellar Door Skeptics, head over to iTunes or your favorite podcast app and give us a rating, because every rating helps push us in front of new listeners. And since our main goal here at Cellar Door Skeptics is to provide the most accurate information possible, we hope that more ratings will mean that more people get to hear the topics that we're presenting. We don't insist that we get a 5-star rating, but Hannah's favorite number is 5, and the more gold stars he gets, the more special he's gonna feel. So what do you say? Head on over to iTunes or Google Play, give us a rating, and help engage with Cellar Door Skeptics today.
And now, back to Cellar Door Skeptics with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Oh, welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all for sticking around.
The show with the sources.
I guess I just said the show with the sources without knowing that was on my my links. Anyway, as we come back to the show, sorry, tonight's been a very tired night. But as we come back to the show, we were talking through different things, and I played a clip from Access only because I really have enjoyed these segments, and I want to portray as much as I can their nonprofit and why you should get involved in their organization. But as we come back from the break, we kind of want to talk about
more economics. Yay.
More economics, yep.
Yeah.
And no, we're not economic experts in this, but we are open-minded and want to have a conversation about it.
Well, we can't ask the genie for 3 wishes for a bunch of money.
No, we can't. So there was an article that came out. I don't know. There was a bunch of articles that have come out over the last year, but one of the articles that caught my attention from progressives of West Michigan was the fact that essentially Trump is ending an Obama era mandate that basically was going to start working to get companies to be more open about their salaries. And I thought that was a unique topic to have tonight, right? Because what is the one thing you protect with all your life at an organization? Your salary. Now, Hanna, you probably don't have the same thing because it's you and your dad. I'm pretty sure you and your dad know what each other make to some extent, and
I
you
know
guys
exactly.
discuss it.
Yeah, but like even then, like I've never understood, like even with friends or people that I know, or even they would be colleagues at other companies. Like I don't have any problems saying how much money I get paid. Is it like just like a thing where when you work with other employees in the same company that nobody wants to say? I don't understand why it's weird.
I don't know. And there's a couple of different theories, and it's kind of funny because I've actually been in this situation, right? I had an employee that we hired from outside the company. I had another employee that was working for me at the time. We expanded positions and hired another person. And essentially, we hired the person for, let's say, 50 cents less an hour. Within the first 6 months, that person made more than the person that was working for us. Now, in fairness, her ability to produce work was double. Her desire to work extra hours was double. And her output, I think I already said that, but her output was double.
Yeah.
So she requested a raise and gave reasons why and was given it, Well, unfortunately, the other employee stated what they made and asked, and then she told them. So within 2 days, that employee had spread information on the floor, had come back to me, and finally sat me down and said, hey, I need more money. And I had already heard all the hubbub, so I knew what was going on. And I had to ask, well, why do you need a raise? Well, because they make more money than me. And I actually had to go through an exercise that said, well, are you doing this? No. Are you doing this? No. Are you doing these things? No. Okay, so why don't we put these things as goals, and once you start achieving them, once you come back and let's have that same conversation. Well, I just don't think it's fair. I think we do equal work. I've been here longer. Yeah. But she's doing all these other things. Like I'm not trying to tell you you're worthless. I'm just saying, hey, there is a benefit to some of the things that she's doing. I rewarded her for her eagerness to do and learn these things. And would you like the same set of goals? Well, yeah, sure.
Then go ahead and start working on them. We'll let you know when you complete them. It's really simple logic. I guess maybe it's just that people put so much dependence on time in as an investment that should have returns on it. I mean, I've been here for 6 years. Well, you've been doing the bare minimum for 6 years, or whatever. Like, let's say someone does that. It's just so. Anyways, the transparency. So this is kind of the reason why companies and people would be like resistant to it. to this whole idea of like the company has to publish everybody's salaries or something along those lines. I don't know how in depth some of these ideas were, but like, so you would have strife in the company, and you would kind of have to change the way the community and the culture thinks about how people get paid, so that it's not just you've been here for a long time, you should have the highest salary. It should be, performance based and a variety of other factors. So we need to, be a little more progressive on how we're compensated for our work. And so that could be one of the reasons why the Obama administration wanted to do this, I would think.
And one of the other things that had come out was, and they'd seen this, is the wage disparity between women and men was reduced a significant amount when companies started to become truly open book. And
cool.
and that's actually what sparked the interest for me, because, again, and we just hired another gentleman fresh out of college, 2 bachelor's degrees, fresh out of college, right? And, there was discussions about pay and all these different things, right? And I know what I make, and he regularly tried to get out of me what I was making. And, I said, you need to decide what is going to make you happy, where you want to be, because I could tell you what I make, and I guess in the long run, it's inconsequential to me, right, that that, because I know what I feel I'm worth, and if I'm going to get what I feel I'm worth, I'm going to go after it, and I don't feel I should be held back by another person, but I also don't feel that if somebody else thinks they do a good enough job, can make a good enough case to my employer that they should get paid the same, I shouldn't feel upset that individual is making as much as me, even if I think I do a better job than them. Because they at least had the audacity to go and, explain
the argument, do everything. Yeah, I understand it. So but also it's never a complete exact comparison. Like rarely, or at least rarely, would it be like 2 people doing exactly the same thing, so that you can be like, are you doing as much as him? No, he did more widgets last week than you did, therefore he should get more compensated. Like usually people's jobs and tasks overlap, because that's the whole point of the modern society, where we have all of these expertise fields and things like that, is like usually people overlap in their abilities. So you don't do exactly what he does, he doesn't do exactly what you do. So it can be a little amorphous in that too, which that's kind of what makes that malleability of what you're worth, what the company, you guys have communication on that. So like it doesn't have to be a direct competition unless he is literally doing exactly what you were doing. I mean, it could just be natural competition because he's new and you want to make more than him or whatever. But like, it shouldn't matter too much, and that's kind of what I am. It's just like thinking that I think people might just naturally be competitive, and that could be part of this as well.
Yeah. So I read several articles. Some of them talked about the pros and cons of it. Forbes.com had an article that was pretty anti-open salaries. Whereas I read a Business Insider, and we reading through theirs and some of the tech companies that have done this, and some of the successes they've had. And it's kind of funny because, if you look, at least in my industry, right, if you look at the way offices are set up, right, tech companies have had a very open office design for the last, 10 years, we'll just say, right? And the open concept is that you don't all sit in a cubicle or in an office with walls. Either there's large windows, everything's open access, nobody's off limits. You can walk to the COO's office. You can see what they're doing, because if they're sitting in there, drinking or, doing cocaine or whatever they do with their offices, right? You'd be able to watch them do that.
It's not Mad Men still. Like, they're probably just playing video games on Newgrounds or something.
Yeah, maybe. But the open concept office idea, there's been research that went into this, right? And there's actual statistics that show that this is a benefit to an office, right? And it's kind of weird because our company just invested in updating our corporate office, right? And we literally expanded, I'm going to say 20 feet into our warehouse, maybe 40. I'll be generous and say 40 feet, right? But they went with a new open office concept idea. they gave me a desk at corporate, even though I'm not there every day, right? But they gave me a desk because they literally were able to add 20 workspaces by getting rid of, cubicle walls, by getting rid of all these walls in between departments. Like at the beginning, there was domestic transportation, international transportation set at the back. They eliminated the walls and all these, all these cabinets that people store garbage in, right? It's not garbage because it's paper, but in reality it is. It's just dead weight. And they eliminated all this. And, that's cool. My desk, I can literally look around. I can see the HR lady. I can see the client services vice president. I can see our, my boss, the COO of the company. I can see there's a gentleman that is basically like, I don't know what his title is, but he's our head tariff law expert. He's essentially somewhat of a law person when it comes to tariff stuff. Genius
so you've got a big variety of people, and so I guess it's just more transparent what they're doing every day, and probably more interaction just overall.
Yeah.
But one of the arguments I've heard is that the open office floor plans and then this transparency possibly could cause problems with just like more white noise. Like sometimes you just can't get away and concentrate. I've heard arguments against that line, and bringing it back down to the salary thing is that like having everything completely and totally exposed, like what I said about that, the white noise thing, is like people seeing that complain more and talk more, and it's just everything comes down to I see Bill's making $5 more now, and everybody's just like, like everybody would turn into wage watchers, watching each other's stuff, and it would be maybe something a little more along the lines of where it was like that was the metric which everybody was always concentrating on, always looking at, and they weren't concentrating on their work. There was more, everything became, it's like a points race. You know what I mean? Like when you played some video games or something along those lines, where it's like you lose track of like the whole point of enjoying or personal growth, and it all becomes down to these numbers. And so, like, I guess, are there any problems with the office being more open, people always running around, and kind of keeping your distraction thing good? And then, do you think that salary thing could cause people to just only talk and think about that one damn thing, and it would drive people crazy?
So it's not that they talk about it, but so that's what the Forbes article is saying. So back to my example, in the open office concept, yes, it is a distraction sometimes to have all these people working around. Now,
yeah,
you have a lady I sit directly next to. She doesn't talk much. She talks about her audiobooks every once in a while, her kids a little bit, but nothing big. The other person that sits across from me is best friends with the person to my right. They talk constantly. It's a constant jabberfest, right? Unless they're in meetings, right? Or talking on the phone with clients. Now, in fairness, I just stick my headphones in, and it was kind of funny the other day. They said
you
something.
Can do that, where you can wear headphones, then that's cool.
Yep. I have to wear a headset anyway to answer calls because it's easier for me to be hands free. Because when I have to troubleshoot something, it's harder to, be holding a phone against my ear. And so, I always wear a wireless headset with me anyway, no matter what. And I've done that for the last year and a half, just because it's easier. And it's kind of funny, they made fun of me the other day. They're like, yeah, Chris can't hear me. And I was like, well, I actually can. And they're like, oh. And I was like, my music's down low. I said, I just turn it up when you guys banter too much. And they're like, oh, we don't do that. And I'm like, well, for the last half hour, you guys have talked about whether your husband and your husband really care enough about what you guys are doing. And like, you are talking about your ex-husband and how he shaved his head and doesn't look attractive anymore. And like, not to be a dick, but I don't care about any of that. Like, maybe if we were having beer outside of work, I'm okay with that, But then, 5 minutes later, somebody's like, well, blah, blah, blah. They're upset about something. And I go, hey, I can help you with that because I understand that situation, right? Because it relates to something I'm doing and a project I'm working on. So let me give you that information. Boom. That employee immediately felt better. So the negative side, yes, is that. And bringing it back to the salary, the Forbes article talks about this. It talks about what comes out of focusing on the team versus an individual. And if somebody's focusing on an individual salary versus a team salary, versus what if you didn't know what they made, yes, that can turn negative. Now, the idea though here, right, and these are what the actual articles talk about, is that it's not if an employee is focused on that, typically that's a cultural issue and is typically a management issue, right? And so the idea is why is that person not making as much as this other person on the team? And so there's usually a couple of things that goes into it, right? One of the issues is that person has never been told they're not doing a good enough job and they should work a little harder because this person's working 55 hours a week and you're putting in 35, right? I'm going to pay that 55-hour-a-week person a little more if she's more productive, And so
transparency and compensation, but like also management being able to handle conflict and explain the situations a little bit better, that would be good too. So like if a company has a good work culture and good work environment where they can explain and communicate these things, and it's going to be, that'd be a good mitigation factor to try to keep people from just one-upping each other with their salary every other day, which, I mean, that definitely sounds like a fix for my initial skepticism there. So that's cool.
The other thing that they talk about that it helps open salary marketplaces. It helps bring salaries in line, as well as create a more diverse market, right? Because if you work for, let's say, Blue Sparrow Manufacturing, and you're an engineer like what you do, Hanna, and you're making $75,000 a year there, and all of a sudden somebody over at Steelcase is making $150,000 a year, you're going to want to go work at Steelcase, right? So opening that pay scale up either means your company is not going to survive because it can't pay you $150,000 a year, and eventually it'll help weed out some of the companies that are just barely scraping by, that are not providing updates, that are just providing jobs, or it's going to show that Steelcase is making way too much money, and consumers are going to go, hey, I might buy something from a company that's less known because I can get it a little bit cheaper, and I know they're going to take care of their employees. And what that'll do is it'll help average out some of the pay discrepancies between organizations, and will help, employees figure out where do you want to work. And again, back to my example, I had an opportunity when they shut down the Steelcase plant. I could have asked to go work at Steelcase. I couldn't get them to give me a salary figure. And I literally just told them, here's a range of what I make. If you can't beat the range of salary, then you have to offer benefits or some perks that's going to be better than where I'm at. Otherwise, I don't hate where I'm working. Why would I come work for you? Why would I come work for a larger organization if you're not going to give me a benefit to it? Because I know you're making more money,
There's also another thing is that when like Steelcase, let's say they're paying an engineer 150 and the other place is paying 75. There's also a downward drive to that as well, because companies are going to pay attention to what everybody's paying, and so naturally there'll be market equalizing forces that would happen here. So Steelcase would see that all of its competitors are keeping costs down by paying the engineers less money at that particular position. Let's say they're identical positions making the exact same widget. Like there's going to be a downward drive to Steelcase's wages to equalize and try to find a happy medium somewhere in the middle. And this is the whole idea of competition and unfettered competition, where corporations and businesses can't hide behind specialty laws and loopholes, or like this in some cases where there's just information is not transparent. Because Steelcase is going to want to reduce costs. All big corporations want to reduce costs all the time. And if someone came to them and said, listen, we could hire engineers from other places and we could move our engineers to a different place, or we could cut these engineering positions, we could hire people at lower wages because that's where they're coming from at 75. They might take it for 80, and there's a net savings of around $70,000 or whatever. All those kinds of things would be competition driven and would drive wages down for companies that are overpaying because of saving money. So I like the idea. A lot of the mechanics and economics of this work really well. The issue, I think, is going to be whether or not corporations can maintain the culture necessary so that our society can our workers can concentrate on being the best employees and having the best performance as opposed to the number metric. And I keep going back to that because I keep thinking of how people get so caught up in, like, just think about Facebook, and like I've created my own, personality page. I've made a public persona, and like they count their likes. They go on Reddit and they count their upvotes and their karma. Like, we are counting machines. Humans love to do that kind of stuff. And so like this is a hard thing that for a lot of people to get over, would be literally the competition and numbers. And I would like to think in an optimistic world that, yeah, we could change the culture and everything would go good. But humans are so resistant to change. I would love to see the experiment happen, and I think it would be good if they tested it on a smaller state. But if they made it natural across the country, that'd be really cool too.
Yeah. So this practice has happened, Hanna. This is not something that's like brand new, nobody's ever done. In fairness, World Foods, before they got bought out by Amazon, did this. This is not a 100% new concept. There's some company called Gas Signia. I don't know how to say it, but Gas Signia. They've been doing this.
Cool.
Buffer actually took that CEO's plan and put it to work for Buffer. And Buffer essentially is like a Hootsuite. They essentially allow you to share over multiple social media platforms. But they did the same thing. And they also took what's called a salary calculation formula and started to line it up. And it's an argument I've been having inside of my own company, was that, hey, the market's now dictating we have to hire people for higher wages. I can't hire somebody off the street for what we pay this person down here. So we need to look at it and go, two things. Would we ever hire this person again? Which is actually part of the Rockefeller habits, which is a whole nother conversation we could get into, right?
Yeah.
But it's part of the Rockefeller habits that are these business ideas, right? Would you hire that person again? Yes or no? If not, why? And if you have them now, can you help make them a good employee, or let's say, or an employee you would hire again? And the idea here is that that's how you look at things, and you can walk through your culture, and that's what I would been trying to encourage my boss back in the day. At Steelcase is like, hey, I got to hire somebody for $2 more an hour to get a qualified for person because the market's dictating that, but we don't pay this other person. Would we ever hire that person again? If the answer is no, then we need to figure out how to move them through the company or educate them that, hey, this is what you make. You can make this if you do the other things. And I get that you got to drive costs down. But the difference is that companies should stop trying to drive costs down by restricting wages. They should start trying to drive costs down through efficiencies, through, distribution methods, and avenues that allow for your employee to not suffer at the hands of other ones. And that's why I bought into this, right? That's why I started to do the research, because other companies have been very successful and have a higher turnover or have a higher retention rate. And then that's the big thing here, Hanna, right?
So we got some numbers. That's what I wanted to see.
You got numbers.
That's awesome.
Yes. And the bigger thing here is that these companies are saying they're seeing less than 10% turnover, right?
Wow.
So think about it. You're my generation, and anybody younger than us, typically work for a business for 3 to 4 years, maybe 5. And then you move on, because the only way to get a pay increase of a substantial amount is to move on.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is they're saying the studies show that if you have an open book, right, you talk about these things, you're seeing less turnover because the initiative is there. People are stepping up that want to be there. And those that are complaining about, hey, I don't make enough, I'm going to go quit and find another job, all that does is open a gap for another person to come in that says, I want to do this. I want to run this. I want to make more money. I want to be a part of something. And then on top of that, it's changing the work-centric culture. And I actually would love to do a whole episode on this, though I'm sure the majority of the audience would find it boring to talk about a people-centric work culture. But that's the company I work for, in fairness, right now. Even though there's disparities and other issues going on, at the exact same time, they look at it as a people-centric. They look at it as the bottom down. Like we had a Christmas party a couple weeks ago, and, they all got together and they didn't say I. They didn't say it was I as the COOs that did this. They said it's you. They said we brought you the opportunities and you made us successful. You grew our company $30 million this year. It wasn't them. And so
That's cool.
this open salary concept that they're talking about actually is to the point where it's saying, hey, you know what? I make $200,000 a year as a COO. Our company probably does not make, nobody in our company makes $1 million at all, period.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
That's a lot of money.
It is. But that's Sears, right? Toys R Us, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that, hey, my company goes out of its way to say, you can come here and you can go. And it's kind of funny because when Steelcase closed down, I got interviewed. I had to be interviewed by the COO, right? And the first question that they asked me, or one of the first questions is, what do you like about our company? So we went through that. Then he said, we went through some other things. What are your ideas for a new position for you? This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? We went through all that. And then all of a sudden, randomly, the conversation changed. And he was like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your goals? And I said, I want your position. And at first, he was kind of like, oh, okay. And then about a few minutes later, he's like, you know what? I actually agree with you on that. Not that you can have my position in 5 years, but that your goal is to figure out how to move through the company to obtain my position. So then I was asked, how do you want to do that? And that's when the discussion came up. This is where I see myself, what I want to do. This is where my ambition is. And how do I get there? Well, I get there by learning this, and this. And he says, yeah, maybe it won't be 5 years. Maybe it'll be 10. But I don't see a problem with you having that ambition. And he says, I wish more employees thought that way.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You've actually thought about some of those things. So it's really easy for someone to say, I want your job. And then someone says, how do you get there? And they're like, like if you're planning the stuff out and you look at personal growth, you're going to get a positive response from the people in those positions of power. Without question, like you do need to be a motivated and organized person to move up in corporate culture. That's just a standard metric that you must meet. So I don't know. I think overall, this would be a really good thing to do a lot more of, and I don't think some of the critiques that a lot of people are talking about would be commonplace. I do think that people naturally have a little bit more of an altruistic and a commonplace sobriquet, so to speak, to where that people would actually not turn into this, number counting, argument driven thing if everyone knew what everyone else made. I do think it would take a little bit of time to kind of equalize and work out the kinks or whatever, but I do think it would be a net benefit overall. And I do think it would be good just because some people in some corporations, if they could see the distance between what their super top echelon bosses make and them, like there would be people who just vaporize and disappear out of a company and say, I don't want to be a part of that. And that would drive down the corporation's wages for the CEOs and CFOs and the CEOs, because if the leaders of the company make so much money that the employees are literally disgusted by that difference and leave out of just dismay, that changes corporate salaries. I think that could be a good downward pressure to kind of equalize that too. There's all kinds of really cool things that I would love to see happen. So I would look into a little bit more of the data on this and see what happens in the future. But I'm definitely interested in this idea.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited, Hanna, and I can't wait till the I get to sit next year and present this. Like I'm going to. I have a whole plan. I'm working through some of this to present this to our HR department and some of the leadership team.
Hi HR, this is Chris Tanner. This is my podcasting partner, Chris Hanna. He and I are here to tell you about your corporate structure being wrong and how we can fix it.
That'll be a lot more thoughtful than that, but I'm excited. I think, and the one thing we didn't touch on as much as it helps with that pay discrepancy between men and women, between black and white. It helps with that, right? Because
anything that can help is definitely a net positive in my book. Just anything that can help, because obviously it's going to be better for white men because everything is usually better for white men. So like if it's going to bring a little more equality, close the gaps between the different minorities, more power to it. I mean, I would love to see that happen.
Yes, because if my title is logistic engineer and somebody else has that and she makes $20,000 less than me, there's probably a problem there, because it's no longer just a discrepancy between my work ethic and hers. Now we're talking a discrepancy between a female and a male. And I think that this helps fix some of that.
Cool.
Well, as we close the show out tonight, we have our quick save segment.
Ooh.
We do. And there's two of them.
Are we gonna do the short one first or the long one first?
I don't know. Which would you like to do first, Hanna?
Let's start out with my nice, warm, and fuzzy one here. So we've talked about this in the past, about the online videos of people getting something medical that helps them see, hear, talk, walk, anything like that, and how good those make you feel. I have been under a lot of stress lately, and it's just been oppressive. My whole family had a fever the last few days. It's just been insane. It's just been nonstop. And I saw this video of a little deaf baby that they gave it hearing aids, very similar to my hearing aids actually, and it heard its mother's voice for the first time. And so I'm like flipping through. I think it was like 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning. I'm at the shop. I'm slowly waking up. The shop is warming up because we turn the heat down in the morning. So like I typically have like 5-10 minutes just to keep my jacket on and just warm up. And I'm sitting in my office chair just like looking at this little video of this baby hearing for the first time. And its reaction isn't what you usually see, a big wide-eyed smile, but it's almost tearing up. And it was one of those things that it's not a reaction that you would expect, but you think about some of those things where something's so happy that, it brings out. So I'm like almost a blubbering mess because I get to see this awesome thing, and the mother's super happy and the baby can hear. And it's just a really warm, heartfelt, full emotional tumble ride that I love seeing these kinds of things. And every once in a while you just need to have something warm and fuzzy. They call it eye bleach on Reddit, where it's just you're cleaning all the nastiness out of your eyes, and here's a warm fuzzy you know what I mean, here's a warm fuzzy memory of something really nice and happy, and now go back to work and deal with all the stress. But this was just one of those things that I get to see that just and I have a little daughter who doesn't have any sensory problems, but she's still every once in a while she'll discover something new, and it's just the greatest thing in the world. So those things are just a really nice offset for all the crud.
Yeah, it's kind of I've been a little forced. I had car troubles lately, and so I had to buy another vehicle. And my car still has trouble, so I'm driving it's not new. It's a very very used vehicle, but it doesn't have Bluetooth in it, right? So I have to listen to the radio sometimes. And the majority of the time when I'm in the car, I'm on the phone anyway, right? But anyway, so I've had to listen to Mojo in the mornings, which is out of Detroit, right? And for the most part, I can't stand it. But it's weird because for the last month, every Friday, they have gone and surprised a family with Christmas gifts. And it's weird because I'm sitting here crying listening to this guy that I feel is somewhat chauvinistic. Though in fairness, they openly talk about, female equality. They are supportive of trans rights and all these other things. And, in fairness, they, as much as...
He's trying. We'll give him credit for
they're trying, yeah. But they do this thing where they get all these local companies to donate stuff, and then they go surprise these people with Christmas. And there was, I guess this is kind of ruining my quick save. Maybe I'll save my other quick save for the next week. This is my quick save for the week.
Okay.
We'll go all lighthearted to end the show, right?
That sounds awesome.
Maybe that's just what we need to do. And I was sitting there listening to this, and they're, the first one they talked about, the father had a heart attack and passed away. A lot of young kids, right after Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving. And, somebody submitted their name, and they came and donated all these gifts. And then the other, I don't know what they call them, side hosts of the show or whatever, these other people that work on the show actually went and gave all the gifts and then came back the next day and actually sat down and had Thanksgiving dinner with them. And I was like, holy crap, that's actually really amazing. That's that human element. It's these people doing those things. And then there was another one a couple weeks later, and it was basically where the parents of these children died in a freak accident. And it was just, there was a 23 or 24-year-old daughter, and then some younger kids. And she stopped everything she was doing to take care of the kids. And it was a very bad situation where both parents died. And she stopped everything she was doing. Her boyfriend at the time, switched his job around so that they could take care of the siblings and keep them at home and keep them all together. And they came in, and of course you got to think they're 25. She was working as a waitress. She didn't have a bunch of money. They didn't know what they were going to do for Christmas. They came in and supplied that whole family with Christmas toys.
That's cool as hell. I know, I went on NPR and stuff like that, man. Like, I listen to shows, and then, I find myself, I'm driving to work, and you just, get slammed with emotions like that. Like, every once in a while, someone does something like this, and they're to bring... It's not so much that it's the Christmas holiday, or it's whatever holiday you celebrate. It's, just hearing people do something that nice for people, when they're absolutely, utterly slammed. There's no way out of it. There's no nice place for life for those people. And they get something, that's so cool.
Yeah. So that's what our show's about. It's about helping to create and foster humanistic tendencies, so we stop thinking about our selfish lives. So we stop thinking about where we are. So if you all just got done with Christmas, you're here, you're listening to us, talk a little bit about
salaries,
bankruptcies, all these other things, and for me, it comes down to, how can you make a difference in one person's life? How can you make a difference in two people's lives? And if you can do those things, and you can commit your life to doing that, and you can help set an example for others to do the same, we can create a ripple effect. And it doesn't need to be churches anymore. At this point, it can be just us humans working together to support each other through the hard times. And maybe we'll get socialized healthcare. Maybe we'll end homelessness. Maybe we'll be able to help reduce the drug war and create better mental health services for those that need it. But if you don't take one small step, if you don't take one little thing and examine how you can't be selfish today, it's never going to happen. That's all we have. Thank you so much for joining us in Cellar Door Skeptics. We'll be back in the new year with a new episode. Next week, you get to listen to a best of with Chris and Chris. But we'll be back in the new year with a brand new episode talking about Michigan's lame duck session, an interview with a local Michigan brewer, and Chris's experience, or my other experience, volunteering at Kids Food Basket, because we're volunteering the first week of the year. So we talked about that organization a couple of weeks ago, and I get to go through and actually volunteer for them in person, other than just donating money. Thank you all for joining us at Cellar Door Skeptics. We'll be back with another amazing episode in 2 weeks. Have a good night, everyone.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker. CellarDoorSkeptics.com.
If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today, because we bring the discussion with the sources.